We, of course, have a keen focus just now on how to grow Michigan's population. As we have often noted, Michigan ranks 49th out of 50 states right now in population growth. It is so much a focus for Governor Whitmer. She has appointed the first ever chief growth officer, a first not just for Michigan, but for the nation. And that title belongs to Hillary Doe, who is with me this morning. Hillary, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really happy to have you here. I guess it's rather simple to figure out what your marching orders are as the chief growth officer, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could take a lot of directions with it, but the task is clear, right? We need to grow Michigan's population, boost our economy, and really tell our story. It's just as important that we make sure everybody in Michigan, across the country, around the world, knows Michigan is a great place to be.
You know, it's interesting to me, and I'm not a Michigan native, but I've obviously come to love the place.
Well, I'll put a check mark on my board for you then. I recruited one.
I've been here a little while. But as someone who's not a Michigan native, there is so much to love about Michigan.
Absolutely.
I am stunned that, and I wonder what your diagnosis is. I'm not necessarily surprised as a Rust Belt state that we have not grown the way we say they do at Texas or Florida or Arizona, but I am stunned that we're 49th out of 50th.
Sure.
What's your diagnosis for what's happened?
Yeah, well, we've done a lot of work to sort of compare ourselves to other states that are growing and have some good results from that data. But we also did a lot of work listening to Michiganders because we wanted to answer the same question. So when I took the role on,
because
we started,
this isn't just attracting, it's keeping.
Absolutely. It very much starts with retention.
Yep.
You can't have a leaky bucket. We need to wrap arms around, especially our 18 to 34-year-olds, and make sure we have a value prop that works for them so they want to build their future here. So we've done public engagement, over 80 stops around the state from the UP to the West Side, listening to folks. What do they love about their state and what do they want to be different?
Yep.
And what we've heard is there is so much to love, there's so much opportunity, but growing places have great places to live, walkable places, transit-rich places, great opportunities, jobs, and education, and they also tell their story loud and proud. So I think my task at hand is to make sure that we're telling the story of the great things that we have on offer at the same time as we're improving the product that is Michigan, listening to our folks and really leaning into policy recommendations that'll make our communities even better places to live.
So we had this Grow Michigan Council. In fact, we had a couple of weeks ago John McCullough and Shirley Stancato, the chairs of that council, on to talk about this report that they issued. I'm curious whether there was anything that you found particularly helpful. Was there anything new on that report that you didn't necessarily expect, or is all of this kind of obvious?
I think there were absolutely new things in that report. I'd also say how proud I am that over 100 people were involved in that effort that are very diverse from all different regions across the state and a very bipartisan perspective. And they came up with a bold set of recommendations they could all agree on. I think that's something to celebrate to start. But in terms of some of the things that were in there, they identified how critical it is to lean into supporting small business, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Growing states tend to have the jump on us there, and we have this incredible community to build on. We're a top 10 state for patents. We have an incredible community of diverse founders right here in Detroit. Black Tech Saturdays is growing and the whole nation's looking at it. We have an opportunity to really lean in there, and they highlighted it. And also highlighted how critical things like housing and some of the challenges we've been hearing across the state are to get ahead of in order for us to have sustainable growth.
There were some in there that I could feel the eye rolls about, you know, because we've talked about transit in Michigan and particularly Southeast Michigan forever. And you're a Michigander, you know what, you've got history with this. How do we break the logjam of the things that we maybe should have fixed a long time ago but haven't? And now you have a lot of people thinking, well, it's kind of too late for us to do X, Y, or Z.
Impossible things are just hard things you do with lots of people. And that's why...
Is that on your wall?
You can put that on a T-shirt. No, I believe it. And this is a problem we have to solve. I mean, when we were doing that public engagement, what I'll say is this is an emotional issue for people across our state. Folks know we have real opportunity, but we can't take advantage of it without talent. Communities need folks to drive our ambulances to, you know, our public school enrollments down. Across the state, folks are saying we need to solve this problem. So whether we've done it before or not, now is the time. I think having bipartisan support for these solutions on the back of this council, having all of this public engagement, standing room only in some of these events, Michiganders are telling us they have appetite to take these things on now and to make change in places maybe we haven't in the past, but now's the time.
It's interesting interesting that we have maybe an alignment for those who live in a city that's losing population, but rural areas that are facing problems. And I wonder how much we can connect those people with the issue. As somebody who is from a town of 20,000 people, I'm very partial to, small town America. But those are the places, those little towns whose main streets have dried up. Is that part of the focus too?
Absolutely. And one thing I've noticed when I was traveling, where our rural communities and our cities have so much in common around this issue. On the issue of entrepreneurship, for example, our cities know that we need those businesses and entrepreneurs to build the jobs of the future, but also our rural areas recognize remote workers and more kind of tech jobs will be critical as we go through this next economic transition. So over and over again, I heard all the commonality we have, and I think that's one of the things in the pro column for us really taking this on and winning. You also named another pro column for us, which is that we're the first state to take this on. We have a first mover advantage here. No other state has said, we're going to reverse a really hard thing on population. And just saying it out loud is the first step.
Maybe you end up, though, unfortunately, ending up having to be 49th on a list of 50 before you take that kind of step, though,
However we got here, here we are.
Oh, well, here we are, yes. And I think it's West Virginia is the state that I guess needs to be thinking about the same thing, because I believe they were 50th. The problem with trying to solve our education conundrum, that we have fallen so far against our national peers. I'm still baffled as to how it happened and where we are, but how do we gather that up? And if you could particularly address how a lot of people thought that all this report meant was we have to go spend money somewhere and raise taxes.
Sure. Obviously, the report came out with a bunch of bold recommendations. A lot of them were in education. I would encourage folks to check it out. You can go to growingmichigan.org and read the full report. They have recommendations in there about our pre-K-12 system and are really thinking of it as, leapfrogging, not just catching up with the Joneses, but what we can do to build an education system that works for the 21st century. And a lot of emphasis on how critical it'll be for folks to have access to more than just a high school education. So being able to access those 2-year degrees really affordably. There's bold recommendations in there for that as well. So we have fallen behind, and we've seen some improvement over the last few years that we can really build on to get this momentum going. It's going to take bipartisan support. I think we have some of that. And more importantly, it's going to take the will of the people.
I've only got about 30 seconds left. But how do we move forward at a time when we are so politically divided? We see the bitterness in Lansing every day. How do you get everybody on the same page on this that we have to be on?
I think we get in rooms together. This is just the beginning in so many ways. We started the public engagement. We're going to continue it this year and show up in communities across the state to listen and to act together. That's the only way through.
The only way. Hillary, it's really, I hope this is the first of many conversations, because obviously it's an existential matter for the state, for all of us.
We're not going to get it done tomorrow, but we're going to get it done.
We'll start. Well, actually, you started yesterday.
Started yesterday.
We'll take a quick break. Back with more on Flashpoint right after this. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.